Welcome back everyone, Oz here. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. And today I've got some r/nuclear revenge for you all. Nuclear feline revenge. Crazy entitled neighbor tries to bleach my sister's cat. Cat gets revenge. I count this as a nuclear revenge story, but not in the traditional sense. This happened many years ago. My older sister had this awful neighbor who had a serious hard-on for Sis's Seal Point Siamese cat. I'll call neighbor CN for crazy neighbor. Sister is Sis, me is self-explanatory. CN was a black-haired, plump, 40-something divorcee who annoyed everyone in the neighborhood. She had zero understanding of personal boundaries and liked to come over to people's homes, barge in, and snoop around, opening drawers and cabinets and touching their stuff. Once she even went into someone's fridge and grabbed herself a ginger ale, then got mad when the homeowner took it back. If you left your door, front or back, unlocked for more than 10 minutes, chances were she'd just come right in. She stole yard decorations from other people's yards and had been caught on more than one occasion pocketing something she'd snag off a mantle or table of a house she'd invaded. And she would always throw a tantrum when she got busted. Cops had been called on her many times, but she was good at being pathetic, so most people didn't press charges. Unfortunately, this made her bolder. Basically, she was the entitled bitch of the neighborhood. Sis was, unfortunately, one of her favorite victims. She'd come over without calling, barge her way in, and demand, to see Sis's cat, telling Sis how beautiful he was and how much she wanted a cat just like him. Sis, being rather non-confrontational, would let her see the cat, who did not like the woman, then make her leave. CN never wanted to leave and had to basically be pushed out the door. Oh, and she despised me because I wouldn't let her in when I answered the door, nor would I tolerate her BS in any way if she got past my sister. CN was so obsessed with the cat and offered to buy him many times. But Sis loved that cat. He'd been the runt of the litter and rejected by his mom. My sister had taken him in and bottle fed him, mothered him, and saved his life. He wasn't a pet, he was her child, so Sis of course always said no. This royally pissed off CN. One day the cat got out. He wasn't an outdoor cat, so Sis and I immediately started looking for him. We were checking the bushes and behind the flower pots in our backyard when we heard a very distinct yowl, one of pure rage, followed by a very human shriek of pain coming from CN's house. Suddenly, the doggy door on CN's back door slams open and outruns my sister's cat. His tail and one rear paw covered in what smelled like hair bleach. I'm allergic to bleach and immediately recognized the smell as he passed me, dashing past us and into Sis's house. Next thing you know, CN's back door slams open and out she comes, cursing up a blue streak. Ragged claw marks adorned her left cheek, and one of her hands had a deep bite wound that had completely saturated one of the gloves, the kind one gets with any hair coloring kit, she was wearing and running down her hand and arm. Turned out, when the cat had gotten out, CN had grabbed him, took him inside, and tried to use hair bleach to bleach the brown out of his tail and paws, in order to change his appearance so she could keep him. Unfortunately for her, she didn't know about Siamese cats and just how violent they can be. They were originally temple guardians for a reason, lol. The moment CN put that bleach on that cat's tail, he went absolutely berserk, letting out that yowl of rage we'd heard, clawing up CN's face and sinking his fangs deep into her hand. She pushed herself between the bushes, the ones that looked like tall green paintbrush heads Sis used to separate the property line, and began yelling. No, not yelling, shrieking. She shrieked that Sis's cat had wandered into her kitchen while she was cooking, and when she tried to pick him up, he attacked her for no reason. Clearly this was total BS. CN then proceeded to call Sis the N-word several times, she's half black, and me an effing half-breed wetback I'm half Hispanic. We have different dads. She screamed that my sis was stupid for keeping such a dangerous animal and that my sis would be paying for her medical bills. She then got right in my sister's face, pushed my sister hard in the chest with her uninjured hand, saying she was calling animal control and intended to have that thing put down. CN opened her mouth to shriek some more, but sis, after hearing the last statement and without one word or warning, hauled off and decked her. She landed on her butt in the grass, now clutching her left eye. Sis then loudly suggested CN go screw herself with a hot curling iron, then ran inside to find her poor cat, while I called the cops. The whole thing from start to end lasted only about 5 minutes. Sis found him hiding in the laundry room and quickly cleaned him off in the sink. Meanwhile, CN is still on her ass in our backyard, howling like a banshee until the cops arrived. I told them what happened and they later talked to my sister, after she tendered to the cat, who gave them the same story I did, even admitting to hitting CN in self-defense of course. It didn't hurt her case that CN had left a bloody handprint on my sister's shirt when she shoved her. CN of course told them something entirely different. Her story was that she was about to bleach her hair when my sister's cat came in and attacked her. She also said that both sis and I attacked her too. I apparently kicked her in the stomach after sis punched her, but the cops found no evidence of bruising, and the scratches on her face kind of masked her swelling eye. I also think the cops turned a blind eye, pun intended, to it considering the circumstances, but since there was a clear blood trail leading into CN's open back door, cops felt they had probable cause to go in. I think if CN had been paying more attention, she'd have refused them entry. The blood trail led to a sink in the first floor bathroom. Blood, cat fur, a bleach applicator, and the box it came in were in the sink and on the floor. The cat's collar was in the garbage. CN kept trying to play victim, but the cops didn't buy it. She got arrested and my sister pressed charges for theft and assault. CN also got nabbed for possession of stolen goods. Cops found a bunch of DVD players and CD players still in their boxes, sitting on her coffee table and in the spare room next to her bathroom. And she had a bunch of prescription drug bottles with other people's names on her kitchen counter. Turned out she'd also been stealing neighbors' painkillers when she visited them. And since she was a renter, the property owner gave her the boot for breach of contract. She went to jail and had to pay for the cat's vet bill. He was okay, but a bit traumatized and had a yellow patch on his butt, paw, and tail for several months. CN's hand got infected from the cat bite, and it turned out it also had caused tendon and nerve damage as well. Moral of the story, stay put of people's houses and have the common sense not to mess with a cat named Lucifer. Ooh, I like that name for a cat. So, not only was this nuclear revenge for the cat, but this was also kind of nuclear justice for everyone in the neighborhood. I mean, that ending there, what turns out she had been stealing prescription bottles, DVD players, and all that stuff. I mean, justice has finally been served, and it was on the nuclear level. So, I kind of want an r/nuclear justice to be created now. That'd be kind of cool. Anyways, let's move on. Creepy, eviling wrestling coach gets what's coming to him. Disclaimer. This is a story that happened to me in high school over 5 years ago, and I was encouraged to share it. This is a really long one, but you'll love how it ends. I promise. Background. My parents separated early in my childhood, around 5 to 6 years old, but both remained very cordial and friendly with each other. They agreed that both parents should be involved, so they shared custody of my younger brother and I. Shortly after separating, they both started seeing other people, and they have been a part of my life ever since. They are, in essence, my step-parents without the official title. There is no animosity between my parents and step-parents whatsoever. Now, my mom does not wear makeup, but she looks really young. Like, she has been confused on many occasions to be my sister. I don't know if it's her genes or she found the fountain of youth, but she is very attractive. This is all important, as you'll see. So, I joined the intramural wrestling team because I was bullied a lot and needed a place to let off some steam. I was a sensitive teenager, and going to wrestling practice was my form of therapy. I even joined an outside wrestling club a few towns away I'll call WC. While there, I had many coaches, including the main coach of the story I'll call Coach Mitch. Mitch was a total douchebag, one of those jocks who brags about how drunk he got, how many girls he banged, and how many illegal things he did. He would walk into wrestling club with his black leather jacket, a backwards cap, and sunglasses and talk up a storm about his nightly conquests. Wrestling was his life, and his job at wrestling club was the most important thing to him. On the mat, he was a rough and strict coach who prided himself on his insane cardio training program. If you did anything not to his standards, you would get a stare full of anger and hate we called the Mitch glare, and sent to run gassers. I went to every single one of those practices and he remembered my face. I joined high school and the high school wrestling team as a freshman, but ultimately didn't wrestle much due to a concussion and other injuries. After the wrestling season ended, the head coach announced he was leaving the team to help his wife diagnosed with breast cancer, and there would be a new head coach next year. Sophomore year rolls around and there was an announcement for students to meet the new wrestling head coach after school. So I got with a bunch of old teammates and new recruits, and in walks Mitch with a leather jacket and a stride full of swagger. My heart sank. After the meeting, Mitch pulled me aside and he told me he expected great things from me after wrestling in his WC program. The first year under Mitch was hell and difficult to adjust to, but I managed. I made varsity for the first time, but I wasn't skilled enough to win many of the matches, which Mitch did not let me live down. Every opportunity he got after a loss to make his frustration known, he seized. I would often look to the sidelines to see him giving me the Mitch glare. I was disappointed with my season and desperately wanted to improve. I went back to WC that summer with a renewed sense of purpose. I went to every single practice that spring and summer, including Mitch's session, and the improvements were noticeable to everyone. Everyone except Mitch. After one practice in the summer, Coach Mitch told me that he wanted me and another wrestler to come 30 minutes ahead of practices to practice takedowns. I agreed I would, eager to hopefully get on his good side. I should have said no. One day over the summer, my mom drove me to wrestling club and we arrived before Mitch, so the doors were locked. Since it was a hot sunny day, my mom stayed until Mitch came. We were chatting when around the corner came Mitch's black Cadillac and parked right next to us. I thanked my mom for the ride and got out of the car to greet Mitch. As I walk a few feet away, my mom rolls down the passenger window and yells to me that I forgot my water bottle. I go back and reach to the window to grab my water bottle and turn around to get a face full of Mitch. I was about to say something, but Mitch, in one fluid motion, shoved me aside with his arm, put his right hand on the roof above the passenger window, and reached his head inside the passenger window. To my horror, he begins to flirt with my mom right in front of me. At first, Mitch thought that she was my older sister, but then he realized she was my mom, which made him very interested. I managed to extract him from the window and we went inside. Once inside, he refused to do anything except talk about my mom. It was very unsettling to hear a 30-year-old man talk about getting with your mom. When I told him that she was with my stepdad, he scoffed and said for now. The rest of the summer and into my junior year was constant torment from Mitch about my mom. It was not long until Mitch brought up to all the wrestlers and my teammates about how hot my mom was, how he was going to rock her world and bed, and how he was going to replace my stepdad and I would call him dad. My teammates laughed and joined in on the tormenting. They even replaced the words of that classic song Stacy's Mom to my mom. Every single bus ride to a meet or tournament, Mitch would blast that song. Every single one. Teammates and Mitch would send texts in the group chat about my mom and videos of them singing to that damn song. Mitch would often look up into the stands for my mom, who was a regular at the meets, and would tell me while I'm warming up that she'll be coming home with him afterwards. While this was all going on, I felt embarrassed and powerless, but also angry. I kept my head down and pretended like it didn't affect me, despite the fact it did. I thought if I pretended like it didn't affect me, that he would lose interest and stopped, but it never stopped. My junior season was incredible from a wrestling standpoint. I won numerous tournaments, including sectionals, and went to states where I lost the round prior to placing. Sectionals and states are the equivalent to the playoffs in football, baseball, etc. I vowed to return next year and place at states. Senior year came and I was winning tournaments and matches again. And while Mitch never got on me for my wrestling, the tormenting of my mom continued despite the fact at this point he had a girlfriend. Many times after walking off the mat, Mitch would come up to me and tell me that it was a good thing I won because he didn't want his stepson to be a loser. This made me rage on the inside, but I refused to give him the satisfaction of a response. But there is only so much I could take, and there was gonna be a day that I finally snap. It was the weekend before sectionals and we were at the league tournament where I was about to face my arch rival from a few towns away in the finals. I was pumped because we had faced each other in the finals of last year's league tournament and I won. I was warming up off to the side of my mom, stepdad, and dad all sitting together in the stands. I was on deck when Mitch strolled over to me and told me that I better beat this punk or I wouldn't have a bed when he and my mom got married. I pretended not to hear him, but that made my blood boil. I ended up losing the match, and was really upset with myself as I ran off the mat to retrieve my clothes. And seeing the opportunity to kick me while I'm down, Mitch barrels towards me, gets chest to chest with me, and starts yelling in my face in front of the whole gym, although not loud enough for everyone to hear. He was telling me that I should be embarrassed, that I would never amount to anything, and that he doesn't know if he could marry my mom anymore because he would be associated with a loser. I lost it. I shoved Mitch away and told him to fuck off, and stormed out of the gym, into the parking lot, through the back doors. I was so angry and frustrated that I was seeing red. My parents saw what happened, but could not hear it, and my dad ran after me. He caught me in the parking lot, shaking from anger and helplessness. I wouldn't talk to him and told him to leave me alone. As he turned to leave, Mitch entered the parking lot. Mitch glared in full effect, and told me that I was suspended indefinitely from the wrestling team. I didn't say anything to him as he walked away. I returned to my dad and told them we need to talk tonight and to grab my mom and stepdad. It was time to get my revenge on the man who tortured me for years. I returned inside to collect my medal and to take a few forced pictures on the podium. I did not return to the team bus and instead had my mom and stepdad drive me home. I spilled everything during that car ride home. Their collective reaction was horror, rage, and disgust. My stepdad, who is an avid health nut and gym rat as well as a former wrestler, wanted to introduce Mitch to his fists. But we convinced him that was not the way to settle this. They vowed to not let this go unpunished, and together we hatched a plan. We were going to take everything from him. That Monday came and my mom, dad, and I called a meeting with the vice principal, the athletic director, and the superintendent. I recounted the entire saga all the way back to wrestling club and showed them the texts and videos from the group chat. Unbeknownst to me at the time, my dad, who always videotaped my matches so I could review them later, caught the exchange between Mitch and me, but without the audio. The men stared in horror as I shared everything, like wide-eyed fish gasping for air. Then, my mom turns to the men and tells them that she has been in contact with a lawyer and that they are planning on suing under Title IX against the district for sexual harassment unless something was done immediately. I did not know if we actually could sue and if this was a bluff, but the effect was instantaneous. I have never seen a group of 4 men flinch in unison together and stumble over one another to assure us that they would take action immediately. Mitch was fired that day, but we did not stop there. Mitch was so enchanted by my mom, right? So much so, he sent text messages and videos to proclaim how much he wanted to be with my mom. Well, I found Mitch's girlfriend on Facebook and sent her over all those messages and videos and told her how he had tortured me for close to 2 years. She was livid. I wish I could have been there for the fight that ensued, but she dumped his ass and their relationship status turned to single. But we did not stop there. My mom and I then returned to wrestling club later that spring and talked to the manager and other coaches about Mitch's behavior towards me while a member of wrestling club. At first, they didn't fully believe the story, but after showing them the messages and videos as well as having some legal persuasion from my mom, they quickly backpedaled and assured us that there was no place for that behavior at wrestling club. We stood at the counter with the manager as Mitch walked through the door. The look of horror that crossed Mitch's face was absolutely priceless. While we could not be present for the dismissal in the office, we watched as Mitch reappeared from the office and left wrestling club with his stupid Mitch glare on his face. My mom and I high-fived in the car and laughed the entire way home. To finish the season, my suspension was revoked and the assistant coach was promoted to interim head coach. I ended up placing 4th at states that year, and it was the proudest moment of my life. I had dealt with so much drama that I felt all of it was finally worth it and I had accomplished my ultimate goal. We had won the battle against Mitch. I placed at states and I was going to a great college to wrestle with a nice scholarship. But it does not end there. That summer, going into my first year at college, I dislocated my arm at the shoulder and tore my labrum, which required surgery. The morning of the surgery came and my mom was driving me to the hospital when we came across a brown and gray pickup truck broken down in the right shoulder. My mom slows down because it's a 1-lane road with oncoming traffic on the left. As we pull alongside the truck, from the front of the truck around the driver's side, stepped Mitch in a yellow safety vest and tan cargo shorts. Time seemed to slow as we made eye contact and his face twisted into that Mitch glare. Gone was his nice black Cadillac and nice clothes and replaced with a broken pickup truck and construction attire. As we drove by, my mom and I looked at each other, asked if we both saw him, and then laughed ourselves all the way to the hospital. Karma is great. Oh, and to this day, I still cannot listen to Stacy's mom. There's a fine line between encouraging your students to do better in a sport and then crossing that line entirely to the point where it completely ruins and shatters them. And Mitch managed to find where that line was and decided to do the 100-meter dash across it. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider clicking that subscribe button. And until next time, I'll see y'all later.